beach do you choose a hard or soft option? How much do you need? In a western town, a dead-end world, the eastern boys and west end girls. In a western town, a dead-end world, the eastern boys and west end girls.
Especially after such hard times. At Sustainable Brands Madrid, we open today a new series of conversations within the frame of the United Nations initiative, Build Back Better. It means so much to us to have you all here today back. Thanks so much for being here. If you allow me, this webinar is just the start. Actually, we are prototyping with our colleagues from Sustainable Brands Asia, Sustainable Brands United States, and Sustainable Brands South America, a series of encounters, so please stay tuned and you'll have more news from us coming soon. I'm Sandra Pina, Director of Sustainable Brands Madrid and Managing Director of Quiero. And if you allow me, I think that we are all getting tired of screens. I think that we are tired of doing 3 things at once while looking at the screen. Why don't we just take a break now? Why don't we just relax? Why just we have fun? We try to listen, really to listen. We try to connect through the chat with each other. I think we deserve it. No, it's just an idea. I was thinking about you guys over there. And we are all tired at the end of the day, no, of doing so many things while we look at the screen. So let's have a try and see how it works. And I think we are all worth it. Build Back Better has become the defining slogan of the post-COVID recovery and has been adopted by leading organizations such as the United Nations or the World Economic Forum. No? And it's actually a blueprint for building a sustainable, resilient, and equitable global economy. Similar to how breakthrough innovation replaces old solutions, the global pandemic has actually closed the door on business as usual and presents companies with an opportunity to reassess their business models, their operations, and their supply chains. So the question is not actually about should we build back better? The question is how can we do it? How we are going to do it? The solution, the circular economy. The circular economy offers a unique solution towards building a sustainable, resilient, and equitable global economy, whether it is through increased waste reduction, material reutilization, business model innovation, or regenerative practices. Actually, the circular economy guarantees positive impact. So, well, here we are today, and before we start, you may know maybe that Quiero is now part of the CEOE, and we are super proud of that. I think we are the first, actually, B Corp at the CEOE. So for me, actually, it's a pleasure to be in this beautiful space from the CEOE. We are actually talking to you in this CEOE building. And next to me, I have a very special person. And for me, it's a pleasure to introduce you to Cristina Rivero Fernandez. Cristina, she is the Industry, Energy, Environment, Climate Director from the CEOE. And she'll make a kind introduction to the event. Thanks so much, Cristina, for being here.
Thank you, Sandra. We are also very happy to have you in our CEOE family. Good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank Sustainable Brands Madrid and Quiero for the invitation to open this session about circular economy as an opportunity for the reconstruction of our economy. Indeed, investing in new business models based on circular economy, we think it's a unique opportunity to foster innovation and to boost our economy along the complete value chains through the identification of synergies and industrial symbiosis, And it is also a clear example of an opportunity to fix the population in rural areas, which is a crucial problem in countries like Spain. The need to develop resilient business models that are capable of adapting to external threats is now being demonstrated with the pandemic and the health crisis. The conclusions of the European Council of the 17th of December have already highlighted the essential role of the circular economy in the post-COVID-19 recovery. The impact of the pandemic is huge, with millions of deaths, illnesses, and job losses. But we must remember it is not the only planetary crisis we are facing. The climate crisis, the biodiversity and nature crisis caused by our unsustainable consumption and production are also threatening our human health, prosperity, and equity. We think that scaling up circularity and sustainable consumption and production is essential to address all these crises. The extraction and processing of resources causes half of global greenhouse gas emissions and much of biodiversity loss and water stress. Studies have shown that the world is only 8.6% circular. So there's a huge potential for circularity and for sustainable consumption and production. As part of this movement forward a post-COVID world, with the opportunity of the Glasgow COP this year, the world needs to enhance its climate ambition. We think also that circularity approaches provide unique opportunities to enhance the contributions that the countries are making to the Paris Agreement ambition. What do we need for that? We need the right policies and incentives to reward and promote intelligent design for circularity and extending product life, and establish infrastructure for waste management and recycling. We are seeing such policies growing all around the world, but these approaches and ambitions have to become the norm and not the exception. And we must reach consumers with new technology. Digitalization, innovation, and education are the best way to adopt sustainable lifestyles. New technologies can also bring youth to be part of the solution to environmental challenges, and I think we have to take advantage of this opportunity also. In CEOE, we are very aware of this opportunity, and we are working in the field of circular economy in different areas. In the context of the recovery plan designed by the EU to recover from the crisis caused by the pandemic, CEOE has developed a catalog with 21 strategic initiatives for Spain, collecting the projects that the Spanish companies consider key for the use of the recovery funds to modernize our economy and to help realizing the huge environmental challenges we face. The circular economy is one of these initiatives, and as well of one of the 6 pillars that Spain has prioritized to achieve a sustainable and climate neutral economy and to accelerate the ecological transition. We have also created a platform that we call CEOE for Europe, where we show and analyze all the information related with the European funds available. You know that in the case of Spain, this is summing up to 140,000 million euros, informing and advising Spanish companies on the state of the art and the means to access these funds. This includes a recently published expression of interest in circular economy by the Ministry for the Ecological Transition that has been very successful and to which many of our partners have presented projects. In our working structure, depending from our Committee on Sustainable Development and Ecological Transition, we coordinate a working group on circular economy where we prepare the input from our associated companies to the different initiatives of the Spanish administration, like the Government Action Plan on Circular Economy, covering the period 2021 and 2023. This is the first action plan for the implementation of the Spanish Circular Economy Strategy, called Spain Circular 2030. And we also hope that this plan will help mobilize the necessary resources for the development of actions in this area. It is very clear that business strategies are increasingly moving towards a clean and circular economy as set out in the European Green Deal and the Industrial Strategy for Europe. But the circular economy is about more than economy. It's about creating a positive attitude to the future. It's about creating a sense that our future can be more prosperous, and definitely it can be better. Circularity and sustainable consumption and production are essential to deliver our international environmental commitments, from the Sustainable Development Goals to the Paris Agreement or the future biodiversity commitments. We have all the power to contribute to this transition, and the solutions to all these crises, as we like to point out in CEOE, the private sector is the main provider of solutions to all these challenges. I am sure that this session will prove that the circular economy is one of the pillars for business recovery through the investment in new business models, and it will contribute to economic strengthening of companies, boosting their sustainability. So I give you congratulations for this initiative. I welcome you all in CEOE, and I wish you a very fruitful session. As Sandra said, just enjoy it.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Christina. Well, let's start. During this 2-hour webinar, we will see practical examples on how companies are putting into practice the circular economy principles. We will also examine barriers that you encounter when applying circular economy day to day. And then we will explore as well the next frontiers of circularity. Basically, we will speak about 3 pillars. First, design out waste and pollution. Second, keep products and materials in use. And third, we will speak about regeneration of natural systems. We start the session now with IDEO. For me, it's a super pleasure. As the early leader in the practice of design thinking, this iconic company, IDEO, creates positive impact through design. As problem solvers, they drive change, build new ventures, and design digital and tangible experiences through co-creation. In this opening talk, Chris Graham, Circular Economy Executive Director of IDEO, will talk about the importance of shifting from an extractive mindset and owning the importance of system health, moving to a decentralized view of a circular economy, and building the vision for a circular operating system. Actually, Chris leads IDEO's consultancy business in the circular economy, and also he has been closely involved in developing IDEO's partnership with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, formed to advance innovative solutions towards a more circular economy. Chris, it's such a pleasure to have you here. It's a blast, actually, to have you here. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for the introduction, Sandra. It's lovely to be here. Thanks to Sustainable Brands for putting on this great event and for inviting me. And thanks for everyone coming to listen. And I very much agree with the sentiments about maybe too much screen time. So I hope you're able to kind of relax and just enjoy it. I've been leading the circular economy innovation practice at IDEO, working with a wide range of clients across the corporate and the NGO space now for about 6 years. My background is, my personal sort of skill set, if you like, is in strategy and systems design. And I work a lot on innovation approaches for a circular economy with partners such as the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and the Business School at Exeter University. And I have a book coming out on this topic next year, and I wanted to share some of my latest kind of research and some of my latest work on this topic of innovation approaches. When I got asked to speak, I was really excited by the title that I was asked to consider, which is the circular economy's next frontier, and the idea of building back better. As I felt it, the reason it was exciting is I felt it gave me a kind of license to be a bit provocative. So that's what I'm going to be, which I think is needed actually in the circular economy field right now, if we want to use it to build back better. And that's really the point of my talk, is to explain why I think that. So you'll all be by now familiar with the idea of the circular economy. You'll appreciate, of course, that it's more than an idea about recycling, which is still quite a common idea in the US. My challenge to innovators working in this field is that to really unlock its potential as a whole kind of economic and societal idea that builds back better, and to unlock its multi-trillion-dollar potential, we need to stop dressing circular economy up in efficiency terms, but actually talk about it more in terms of effectiveness and resiliency. And let me explain the problem. If we go to the next slide. So the circular economy has been pretty successful so far in that it has been very widely adopted as a movement in a relatively short space of time, in a much shorter space of time than perhaps we look at the history of the sustainability movement more broadly. Circular economy has really not been around that long. And so in many senses, it's done incredibly well as a movement. Companies in many industries, from fashion to mobility to food to household goods, are using circular strategies to better utilize goods, create new revenue streams, scaling up resale and reuse, for example. Many of the businesses are lowering their costs using these strategies by reducing waste, creating less wasteful systems, more efficient systems within their organizations, and better managing, for example, their future cost of capital by lessening the risk of stranded assets as the economy transitions. All solid, very kind of rational things that you would want to do in business, and all well and good, you might say, because the circular economy, in talking to this kind of efficiency benefit, has been adopted more widely, and I guess it's very much been part of the theory of change for circular economy, fitting in to that business idea, and the idea is that if it does that, off we go. It starts to scale. But my fear, and I'm not the only one who thinks this, is that the movement risks becoming a victim of its own success, in the sense that if circular economy is only about efficiency, it risks becoming more a kind of technical solution to material waste created by a linear model that is now more efficient, less bad. I believe the efficiency narrative stops us seeing the full potential of the circular economy idea. The risk is that the movement will stand still if the work on the circular economy transition only serves to reinforce the model that we're trying to redesign, essentially by making it more competitive, rather than actually journeying on and using its momentum to design a more inclusive and regenerative economy. So we need to really see it continuing to move on and move beyond where it is. That's absolutely critical. And driving a more inclusive and regenerative economy is, at the end of the day, after all, the ambition of the circular economy. Next slide, please. And actually, the next slide as well. Thank you. I forgot to tell you to click. So I know that folks like Ken Webster, who is one of the sort of founding folks at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, or very, very early on there anyway, he drove a lot of thinking in the movement, and folks like him drove a lot of thinking around that idea of fitting in with business. And they were very influenced by the practice of framing articulated by, for example, George Lakoff in his book, Don't Think of an Elephant. The idea being that if you can put an idea, a frame that people understand, if you can relate your idea to a frame that people understand, to a frame that people want to relate to, your message is absorbed and adopted. But as I will argue, I think they've actually done too good a job of relating the circular economy idea to the business narrative that has pervaded really innovation, or a lot of innovation practice, which is around optimizing the model and making it ever more efficient rather than rethinking it. Next slide, please. So I think that the circular economy needs to be adopted, as an economy that has a very different shape and a different mindset to, I think, what we would all think of as an outdated kind of business world of neoliberal economics and the linear economy. In other words, we need to work on the mindset shift, the mind shift with the circular economy, so that we don't just have a technical circularity run by a linear economy kind of extractive mindset, the mindset of the old economy. The circular economy in practice definitely needs to shift from not only being, so this is an and point, not only being something we see in very big pipes, like centralized big pipes. So not only, it can't be just a centralized or centralizing idea, it has to be a distributed and redistributive idea to fulfill its potential. And we need to shift in our obsession with it, with this kind of idea of kind of kill or be killed in the fight over scarce resources. This idea of in the fight over scarcity, essentially, to seeking to create more value, to really putting an emphasis on value creation and not just this kind of obsession, this kind of free market obsession with value capture and cashing out. But we need to focus on growing the size of the pie and unlocking abundance if we want to create a more resilient society and an economy that is in our own enlightened self-interest. To quote Nick Hanauer from his fantastic book with Eric Liu, The Gardens of Democracy, we all win more when we all win more. And it's a shift from seeing ourselves as this in business or our business. It's a shift from seeing our business as this kind of entity to seeing ourselves in more as a kind of independent entity, to seeing ourselves in more relational terms. And if you click on, please, to the next slide. So how do we do this? Well, actually, I want to go back to this idea of framing. So, I think the answer lies in giving people the ability to think in different terms. It's not something you can just tell people to do. You have to help them with that process. It goes back to framing. We can't just say to people, don't think about efficiency. Just as we say to people, in that book, George Lakoff's idea, don't think of an elephant. You obviously think of an elephant. So we can't say to people, don't think of efficiency. And we can't just demand that people redefine ideas of value creation and redefine the idea of value without providing an alternative frame, an alternative pattern to think with, an alternative scaffolding, if you like, on which to build ideas. Because it's very natural that we will default to the ideas that we know that the system rewards, the current system, the efficiency ideas. It's all we can do. So instead, we need to offer an alternative pattern of thinking that we can use in business, if you like, a different mental scaffold on which we can build our innovation ideas. Next slide, please. And what I found through trying to help innovators think more dynamically about circular systems and more expansively about ideas of value is two things really help. One is what I call very imprecisely soulful thinking. And the other is natural world inspiration, which, as those of you who followed the circular economy for a long time will know, or remember its origins, circular economy was very inspired by systems in the natural world. The model was very inspired by that. So next slide, please. So during the first week of a design sprint, I typically have executives reflect on, what they are passionate about with regards to the topic of circular design. Why are they there? Why have they got into it? Why are they pursuing it? Why does it matter? If you move to the next slide, please. And then I read out a poem. I typically, poems are not typically read out clearly in business environments, but I find that it is actually really, really useful for breaking up our kind of linear thought patterns. And I typically use Mary Oliver's poem, not always, but this is a good one. It's called The Summer's Day. It's a poem by Mary Oliver. And it's a real kind of reflection on truth and beauty and nature and ideas of purpose. And it's got these fantastic lines at the end. I won't read the whole thing now, but it's got these fantastic lines at the end. Tell me what it is you plan to do with your one wild and precious life. And I can love that. I love that idea. And it's a great way to start to move our brains from left brain efficiency to and linear thought patterns to a more creative space. And it feels good to go into that space. It's something that, it's a very human-centered experience to move into that space and to shift to a more expansive frame and way of thinking. And then if we move to the next slide, please. And the next thing I have participants do, and this is perhaps the last piece was more of a kind of warm-up, if you like, and this is really the meat in the sandwich. Is the next thing I have participants do is we do an exercise that immerses people in forest systems. And this begins to shift people, shifts people from what Nick Hanauer, in that book I mentioned, The Gardens of Democracy, which I thoroughly recommend reading, it starts to shift people from what he calls machine brain to gardening brain. And people often ask me to give them, the ultimate kind of, I often get asked, what is the ultimate sort of circular economy case study? And my latest way of answering that is to say, go and visit a forest, for the very reason that it is kind of like the ultimate circular economy. And forest systems help us think about value creation and capture on many different levels, and in ways that offer us the potential for a more, resilient economic system. This is just some of the examples, but in the forest system, value is circulating and regenerating all the time through a myriad of exchange networks beneath the soil that ensure that all kind of core materials in the system are interoperable, available to the whole system and abundant. Shared essentially data networks ensure the ecology is resilient as resources are redistributed to ensure the growth of all future value producers in the system and system multipliers. And it combines many distributed and interconnected systems and builds resilience through that diversity. And all that competition, interestingly, if you zoom out, all serves to reinforce system health and balance, to name just a few of the attributes that we see in forest systems. If you move on to the next slide, please. So we have people go out before the sprint, and we ask them to go into a wood or a forest, or even if they can't do that, a park, and bring back something that they think it's been easier with people working from home actually to do this, and bring back something that they think can help tell the story of how that ecosystem is an effective circular system. Next slide, please. And then we have them in the session, we have them dive deep into a few short, or dive into the forest inspiration using a few short videos on forest systems. And they discuss what makes forest systems effective circular systems, and discuss what ideas this inspires in relation to the design challenge that they would have brought in for that week. And if you go to the next slide, please. And then we introduce some specific forest provocations. I don't pretend to be an expert on biology, but I've studied this in the sense of how it offers a different pattern of thought. So I call them provocations because it allows me to be a bit imprecise on my biology. But these cards ask questions. How are you producing with your decomposers in mind? An important layer, of course, in the forest ecosystem, the different set of decomposing organisms. How are you creating more value in the system by using strategies of abundance, such as maximizing interoperability of what you produce and opening up infrastructure, data, and know-how? And then next slide, please. And then in natural systems, often we see things that compete on or seem to compete on one level, but actually we also see the need for coexistence when we zoom out to support a thriving system. How might we ask questions like, how might zooming out allow you to see the opportunity to create more abundance through collaboration, more than you can through competition, or by developing symbiotic relationships? How might our system benefit from decentralization, for example? And to give you just an example, one of the teams that got really inspired by this was a team who was they were from a global household goods manufacturer. Unfortunately, I won't name them, but they a very well-known global household goods manufacturer. And they were looking to expand their market presence in India. And they were very worried about how they could lower the price point of their product. And we're interested to know how circularity could potentially help them do that. And the forest analogy, I think, gave them some ideas for doing that in perhaps a somewhat unexpected way. Because actually they were quite worried about that their own products were essentially being resold and reconditioned in many kind of independent resale marketplaces that were then effectively competing with their new products. And so they felt that this was quite a big threat. But the forest analogy inspired them to think about how they could actually harness this myriad of local reconditioning and resale systems that exist in communities throughout India. And actually, instead of competing with these networks, design products and services for these networks, even promote these networks. In other words, drive a level of abundance that they couldn't possibly get to without developing a symbiotic relationship with these distributed circular economies that were all over India, and essentially create this abundance by increasing the circulation of their products and, if you like, monetizing a role within that system, but a much bigger system than if they were just trying to compete with that system, shut it down, and just sell to a small minority who could afford their products in India. So that was really, really inspiring. If we go to the next slide, please. So just to kind of conclude, a couple of thoughts. If we could move on to the next slide. Perhaps it's taking a while to load. So to conclude, I believe the next frontier for the circular economy and the way it can build back better is to cast off the clothes of the kind of linear economy in terms of its mindset and its language. We need to move away from this efficiency mantra and instead use the power of framing to connect us with different patterns of thought that help us imagine ways to create and capture value in a way that supports a resilient economy that is inclusive and regenerative. Next slide, please. One that moves a little bit of away from this kind of mindset in terms of value capture. And I'll leave you with the thought that I mentioned earlier. If we go to my final slide, which I hope talks to this mindset, which is the quote I mentioned earlier on from Nick Hanauer, which is that if you go to the next slide, which is that we all win more when we all win more. So that's it. That's my talk. I hope that was sufficiently provocative, but thank you for listening.
And let's listen to your questions, please, through the chat. And in the meantime, Chris, I'm dying to ask you this. You've been working at IDEO for more than a decade and been part of many innovation projects. What do you see as being the next breakthrough in circular innovation?
Well, I believe it is about being able to successfully establish different patterns in the minds of designers, different ways for us to think about, creating and capturing value. Because too little of what we do is done with the health of the system in mind. I think we are far too we're far too regularly still taught in business schools the goal is really to capture all the value you absolutely can, and I don't think this has been particularly conducive to thinking about circular systems in their fullest sense of the word, and I think that we don't do enough to help people adopt different ways of thinking, hold design questions at more of a systems level, to kind of, as I said, get much more inspiration from a different set of patterns. It could be patterns in nature, or it could be patterns we can put in our mind that we see in digital systems. If you look at another pattern I could have talked about, but is if you look at something like the TikTok phenomenon. And you think about how those kinds of platforms work. They work when they create, an individual creates value that others build on, that then creates opportunities for others, that then brings in others. The tools they use allow for people to build on other ideas. That then, it's a network effect essentially, right? I mean, that's how those platforms work. That would be another example, a great pattern to think with, the TikTok phenomenon. So I think it's more these kinds of patterns of kind of collaborative innovation, building the pie so that we can take a bigger slice ourselves, but build the pie.
Chris, that TikTok is a conversation with a beer or with a sangria, So we need to have that one. Another question. We are living in times of social unrest, Chris. How can the circular economy be leveraged to deal with societal challenges? Do you think that's feasible?
I do think it's feasible. I don't think that the movement has done a great job of really talking a lot to its social purpose. Clearly, the world is looking for an economy that has a social purpose, right? I mean, the economy, it's no longer acceptable to see the economy as something that is kind of going to produce value if it's kind of self-serving, and the idea that it might somehow be self-correcting. This sort of the neoliberal idea, I think, is completely died as far as I can tell. And people, realize that the economy needs to be designed or redesigned, that we need to put a social purpose in it. I think that the point I was trying to make is that it's up to all of us to start to put that vision out there. That's why it's so important that the European Commission is trying to build the new European Bauhaus. It has to be a vision about how the economy helps us live our lives better. And the danger is, as I said, that the circular economy, without that and without a sense of a different set of language, a different kind of vision, we don't just want a technical solution. That's not what people want, right? And I think the circular economy can be so inspiring. It can be such a value-creating idea, and it can be an idea for how we can live together. But I don't see us doing a lot around that historically in the movement. We need to do more of that. And I think the new European Bauhaus idea is a great example of someone trying, or an organization trying to drive that. The challenge will be whether they can do it in a way that catches the public imagination and is not too top down. But that's another story.
Definitely, yeah, I agree with you. I think we'll see more on the social side soon. I have a question from the audience. Chris, how do you try to change, or how could you change the mindset inside an organization? No, that's the difficult bit. No, you were speaking about the frame change before, but would you like to add some more for answering to this question?
So I think it's really important that obviously the organization has a purpose around circular economy, so that the people in the innovation teams trying to develop the business towards that goal have permission. But I think it's also really important that we create these spaces where people can think differently. Otherwise, they won't think differently. And we also have to, I think, provide a way for people to try things, learn from things, and build a picture of what they need to work on. And that can be a form of strategic planning. So this building to think, this kind of learning by doing about, what systems, you want to influence to drive circular outcomes. It's very hard to understand that from the beginning. So you need to kind of have a roadmap that you are iterating with your strategy as you start to work on, identify parts of the system you want to work on with your innovations, your product and service innovations, your supply chain innovations. Start to build a picture of that system that you're working towards. Develop a theory of change. These are all really important so that an organization doesn't just stay sort of stuck in kind of seeing circular economy as a very downstream, just a kind of product idea. But it's about starting to build towards like a circular operating system vision for your organization. And that comes from trying things, building a situational awareness by trying things. It's very hard to do in a top-down way. Yeah.
And Chris, a last question. Waste has captured public attention. Could we really create a circular economy that removes waste totally?
Well, could we have a perfect circular economy? I'm not sure that we can. I think we would have to we would have to become incredibly integrated into natural systems for us to be able to do that, I think. And I'm not sure that's going to happen soon. But I think questions of kind of perfection and kind of absolute circularity are somewhat irrelevant to without being rude. But there's such a journey between where we are and perfection that I think we need to kind of focus on continuing to journey, because my fear, as I said, is that the movement has got to a kind of happy place where it's making all these kind of efficiency gains that I worry reinforce the very system it's trying to change. So, I think that's a bigger problem that we have.
Wonderful, Chris. Chris Grantham. 3 headlines from him. Stop talking about efficiency. Got it. Shifting from machine brain to a garden brain. I love that one. And learning by doing. Build your own vision of a circular operating system. Thanks so much, Chris. Great to have you here. Take care.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Really enjoyable. Thank you.
Well, our next panel is going to be with 2 CEOs who are leading award-winning circular businesses. We will explore circular business models, innovation, and new forms of collaboration as key enablers. So I have the pleasure now of introducing Bert van Saan, founder and CEO of Mad Jeans. Together with his team, Bert transformed Mad Jeans into an exemplary company, award-winning, consistently putting the principles of the circular economy into practice. And you'll see how sharing the circular story of Mad Jeans in front of large audiences is second nature to him. You'll see him in a minute. And also, let me introduce you as well, with great pleasure, to Alberto Gutierrez. Alberto is the co-founder and CEO of Aqua Service, a leading company in the water sector with dispensers in Spain, co-founder and CEO of Plug and Play Spain, an accelerator for technology startups. Amongst other things, he's also on the advisory board of Plug and Play Tech Center, Imagine Bank, and INEA. And in 2016, he was awarded with the prestigious Rey Jaime I Award in the category of Best Entrepreneur. So, hi to both. Hi, Bert. Very nice seeing you back. Hi, my friend. Alberto, good to have you here.
Hello. Pleasure.
Hi to both. An interesting conversation we are going to have with these two guys, let me tell you. So, my first question, pioneering the adoption of circular business models. You both are pioneers, and I just met Alberto. He was telling me about his story, and I met Bert 6 years ago. Bert, sometime more or less, no? And I would like you to explain a bit, in essence, how your business models work, and also I guess that your business models were not perfect, no, from the beginning, no, from the start, considering the novelty, no, of the whole thing. Could you share with us how you have fine-tuned the model over the years, your learnings, your failures? Please, Bert.
You want to hear all my failures? Then we need 1 hour. Well, I will not do that. Now, my company, we started nearly 10 years ago by creating a denim company, a jeans company, where we said, okay, we would like to change the fashion industry because it became a very dirty industry. One of the second largest polluting industry in the world. And I wanted to change by taking the biggest item, the jeans, and also the most polluting item, and see what we could do there. And then you start, of course, with the cotton. Okay, you can use organic cotton, but much better, of course, to use recycled cotton. And we found a Spanish company near Valencia, Royo, and Recovertex, and they are able to use old jeans, shred them, tear them apart into new material. Today we can go up to 40%, and then the other 60% we use organic cotton. So we started this company by saying, give me your old jeans, I will make new jeans out of this. And then people ask me, okay, how do you get these old jeans back? So we have two ways. One is we give a 10 euro deposit, so you can bring back your old jeans and you get 10 euro discount. And the more thoughtful idea was you can lease a pair of jeans with the thought of, first of all, do you need to be the owner of something, or is the performance of the product good enough? And also, if we as a company, we want to do everything right, we use organic cotton, we don't use horrible chemicals, we pay people well, we can control the whole chain in which we work, we are fully transparent. But many people can do that. It's not good enough. You also have to be, as a producer, responsible for the product you put into the market and be responsible for what happens after use. And that's what we tried to do, and that's what we did. And then all the failures, one of them was when we started, I just launched this idea of Lisa jeans. And after 3 months, my friends were calling me and saying, Bert, you're a nice guy, I lease jeans from you, but you're not taking any money from my account. This is not going to last very long. So you have to make sure that the whole background, your whole office, your whole IT systems, your whole accountant and everything is correct. Otherwise, of course, it's not working. It sounds very simple, but I can tell you it's difficult.
I'm sure.
I can keep on talking, but I think maybe Albert also wants to say something.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. Also, it's great to hear Bert's story, and it's also great to hear that one of his main inspirations and suppliers are here in Valencia, Spain, because that's where we're located in Valencia as well. So that's a nice touch to the story. Just to give you a quick background about Aqua Service. So we're the leading 5-gallon bottled water company in Spain. Actually, I started the business 24 years ago, co-founded it with my partner, Saida Miri, and I've been the CEO for the last 24 years, and today we employ almost 2,000 people in Spain, and we service 425,000 customers in a model that was from day one circular economy native, I would say, or a circular economy model. Actually, 24 years ago, when I was 26, I had no idea what circular economy was. But we did know about this model, and basically our business is we deliver returnable 20-liter bottles with a water cooler like the one I have behind here to our customers, either in their home or in their office. And our bottles are returnable and reusable. So we take the empties and then clean them, refill them, and then take them back to the market. Our average bottle has about 50 life cycles. So in one of our bottles, you can actually dispense 1,000 liters over its lifetime. And that's the equivalent of 2,000 5-liter bottles, or 660 liter and a half bottles one way. And then once they're out of use, since they're in our cycle, we take them out and they're recycled. So we can guarantee 100% recyclability, and we can guarantee no littering, which I think it's quite important. Also, our model is circular economy in the water cooler as well, because we don't sell that. We don't sell. Our water cooler is a service, and it's a service of the delivery of the water. So we actually lend the water cooler to our customers so they can drink our water. And in that sense, we also what we guarantee is the long life of this appliance. And once a customer doesn't use it anymore, we take it away and then we refurbish it, and then it goes back again to the market. So extending the life of the water cooler as well. And then once its life is finished, then we guarantee that it's recycled. So that's basically the business model. In terms of challenges, there are many challenges. I think I can think of two. The first one, and with our model and probably a model like Bert's, where you don't sell anything, you're actually either leasing or renting or doing as as a service. People still tend to have a sense of ownership, and they want to own things, right? So that's kind of like the first challenge, is to take people away from this ownership mantra and changing them to use as a service. And then in more operational for us, for example, one of our main challenges is the flow of the bottles and the empty bottles. So it's a supply chain challenge. Since we're not in linear supply, we cannot fill all the bottles in the winter, where it's the low season, and then store them and then deliver them in the summer. We have to do this very thoroughly, continuously, and as we pick up the empties, then we have to fill them up, and then they have to go back to the customers, right? So in terms of supply chain, and it's definitely a little different in the circular economy model than the linear economy model.
Two nice challenges, Alberto. I would like to speak with you about financing as well, financing the circular economy. I'm sure you both had challenges there when you started. There has been a rapid growth now in circular economy financing, led by global investors such as BlackRock, who are starting to see the opportunities of circular economy. Bert, as a CEO of a leading circular business, could you share with the audience how this is playing out for corporates? Basically, have you become an attractive business for investors? How do you see the evolution you've had since the beginning?
It took some time, of course. I can proudly say now, yes, we are interested for investors, but the first few years, of course, you cannot pay yourself a salary. You have to invest a lot of money of yourself, because 10 years ago, no bank has ever heard of the circular economy. And when I explained them that I wanted to lease out jeans, they were looking at me if I was completely crazy. And the first actually interesting question from banks that I got at that time is what are you going to do when people don't pay the $750 per month? And so I thought, well, I will buy a shotgun, I will stand in front of the door. But this is a very interesting thing because banks were totally not prepared and not thinking of this. But once as a company, in my case, once we started to make a serious turnover, like when we passed a few years ago the first €1 million turnover, then suddenly people say, okay, there's this little proof of concept. That's the first step. Then a lot of people call you and tell you that you are very interesting, but that they want to have half of your shares of the company to loan you the money. So that's not really investing. But in the end, we did it. We became a serious company. Big investors had faith in us. And in 2019, we got a major investment of over €1 million of 2 funds in Holland. And the advantage is that those are funds. One is North Holland Investment Fund. And they invested because they believe in the story and they want to push the story forward. And they're not in it to say, okay, what will be my exit in 5 years' time? But they're in it because they want this to happen. They want this to work. So this is a very nice entrance of a shareholder to have somebody on board. To give you an idea on when COVID really happened, 15th of March last year, the first one to call was this fund to say, okay, Bert, how are you doing? Do you need more money or things like that? So that was really, that we didn't need more money, but that was really good to have. And now we can see that we are, the last year with COVID, we doubled turnover. We see tremendous action on internet where we didn't do much more, but attraction on our website. I think we are the only denim company that's growing at the moment with a fast rate. So that means we are doing something right, I think. We're telling the story, and we are even now preparing a post-COVID solution for retailers. The retailers, of course, have a difficult time. So one part of our business is our own web shop, which is, of course, doing great. The other part is with around 300 retailers in 30 countries now, also Spain. And we are coming up with a plan to help them recover after COVID. And this will be launch it in a few weeks' time. There will be a big press release about this, and yeah.
That sounds amazing, Bert. Very interesting. That COVID plan. Alberto, could you walk us through how circular business models are funding? How do you raise the financing to fund the strategy? Can you go to capital markets, private equity, loan, grant at national level? There are many different pots, no? How do you do it? What's your experience?
Actually, it's an excellent question. I can tell you that 20 plus years ago, financial entities didn't understand this model very much, and now they're starting to. There was one big challenge on our side and many other circular economy models where you actually have to do like an upfront of cash to buy the goods, and then you use those goods over a period of time. So there's always like a cash out at first, and that requires financing, right? In our case, it's the bottles and the water coolers. So it does require in some cases extra financing. Especially upfront. On the other side, the beauty of the model is that it has recurring revenue, and that's something that financial institutions really like because it's very predictable. And in that case, that's kind of the other side of the coin, and that's what we were able to show the financial institutions and have had backing from banks from almost from day one, I would say. We haven't gone to markets. We haven't gone to private equity. Obviously, private equity loves our model because of the recurring aspect and having so many customers spread out. So they love that part of the model. And we've been able to finance ourselves either with our internal cash flow or just through bank debt. And banks in Spain have been, we've had a great relationship with them, and they've been very supportive of our business over the past 20 plus years. But in going to financial markets, there is a trend today that financial markets want to invest in sustainable companies, and circular economy is one of the flagships of any sustainable model, right? So there's definitely an opportunity in those terms.
Sure, no, and the pandemic has shown us how companies with those kind of models are more resilient, no, and more valued, no, by investors. And I wanted to ask you both about the main barriers you encountered since you started, no? How did you overcome them? Which were the hardest barriers you had, no? What was the ugly side of the story, no? The worst things that happened to you? Bert, you are laughing, please.
Well, about the financials, of course, that we spoke about. The difficult part is to get this customer understand what you're trying to do and why this is better. You know, consumers have the idea they're looking for very short-term profits. They would like to buy something cheap, quickly available. And we have to explain, we have such a large store, we have to explain them that no, we want to treat the people well that are making the jeans. We don't want to use cancerized chemicals. We want to recycle old jeans. We have a whole story. That's too much. So how do you tell this to the public? What do you do? For instance, one of the things we did was when people were asking me, okay, you are getting all these old jeans back. What are you going to do with it? So I said, okay, we'll show you. We drive to Spain with 2 cars full of old jeans. We arrived at Ferré in Valencia and throw them ourselves into the shredder machine just to be transparent and to show what we do. So a big thing for us was how to find your customer, how to convince them, and how to make them ambassadors of the brand. And that took some time, but it works now. You know, now people today are wearing our jeans, and they're proud about it, and they're saying, you know, I'm wearing a pair of jeans, but they're not mine. And the other thing was, when you do all this and you're making a pair of jeans, jeans is very personal. You want to wear your pair of jeans, you want to own it, and you have to, your ass has to look good in it. And that's quite difficult online. So you need stores also. And I very often, we have a small store also where we see people, and then I give them a pair of jeans, they try it on, and then they look at me. Wow, it fits really nice, with a big question mark. And then I also, where does this come from? Why is the first thought that we make jeans that would not fit nicely? So I'm still confused about that. But that's the thing, you know. You're there as a new brand, bringing a whole new story, and we are shaking up the market with a new system, and that's sometimes hard in a well-established big jeans market where mega budgets are there to make advertisement, and we are this small Calimero trying to fight it. So that's, you know, we don't have that kind of budget. We pay a fair price for our jeans. So that means we buy them at a higher price than our competitors. And we cannot sell 3 times as more expensive. Consumers do not expect it. They want a fair price. So 119 euro is a real price for a pair of jeans. So our margin is smaller. That leaves it with less budget to make marketing. So we have to be smart and try new things. That's why social media is doing well for us. We have nearly 50,000 followers on Instagram, which just came organically. You know, all these kind of things, we have to try to be smart, use influencers, micro-influencers that talk about our brand and share the book. So we are really trying to be very optimistic and new also in the way we market our brand.
In the day, because I think it's very interesting, no? Alberto mentioned as well the ownership mantra, no? And what you are saying, Bert, about bringing the consumer, the citizen, no, in, and how to make it happen with limited budgets, no, versus big competitors that are over there established in mature markets. And Alberto, somebody from the audience actually is saying, could Alberto explain the challenge of the plastic glasses. Yeah, the plastic glasses. Somebody in the audience is asking. I leave it up to you.
The challenge of the plastic bottles or the plastic glasses?
The plastic glasses. The plastic glasses. Somebody that knows your story, maybe. If you want to just...
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'll get up because I mean, we paper, so
Okay.
so this is what we're using now, and obviously, you know, that's something that we have changed in the last year or so. And then what we use in plastic in terms of the bottle, it's reusable and returnable. So yeah. So I mean, this is, you know, one of the constant challenges is, you know, we're circular. We want to be sustainable, and then, you know, and then all those challenges is what we try to, you know, move forward all the time. So I hope I answered the question.
I think so. So. Yeah, another question. I wanted to take you to the theme of collaboration. No? We always speak about collaboration. I think that's a theme that comes back in every conference, every talk. But really, sometimes we look at collaboration as that nice photo. No? Circular economy really cannot be achieved by one company or sector. No, it requires really a network of partnerships and collaborations, real ones. No, circular economy is collaboration. No, could you give one example of real collaboration that created a disruption, a significant advancement in your circular businesses?
I said, yes, I have an example, but we're officially not allowed to talk about it. Mm-hmm. The launch will be the 7th of April. But that's too big of a cliffhanger. So I'll try to. There's this huge, big Swedish furniture company making the clip-on, the best-selling bench in the world. And they, sorry?
I'm thinking.
And they wanted to make a cover for the clip-on for the 40th birthday. Mm-hmm. I can show you a small movie if you want.
Please, if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Not sure if we see that. No?
No.
No, sorry, we cannot see it, Bert.
No. Maybe that's better. They said they needed a circular cover for their bench, and we, with our Spanish partner, were able to create this. It took us 2 years, but it helped us a lot because our volumes were quite low, and because of this huge first order that we got from this company, we were able to also give our Spanish partner a huge order. So that suddenly the price comes down because of the volume. And first of all, we would go to them and say, okay, can you please make 10,000 meters for us? Because we want this recycled content and everything. And then we're going like, okay, because you're mud jeans, we will do it for you. But it was with big hesitation. But now we came with an order of 100,000 yards. And suddenly everybody starts to smile. So thanks to this cooperation with this big company, we were able to pump up the volumes, and they were thankful to us because we have all the knowledge in-house. We already did 7 years of recycling denim with all the mistakes and all the defaults, and everything was working now. So this was really an example of a fantastic cooperation. But you will see the launch in worldwide in 7th of April.
Fabulous. We'll keep an eye on it then. Alberto.
Well, for us, I mean, obviously, you want to have, and it's very important, especially in circular economy, to have collaboration with main suppliers in terms of especially materials. it's quite important. But in our case, I want to give an example. Actually, it's something that it's very close to me as well, and it's kind of putting together innovation and sustainability, right? And we do this through Plug and Play Tech Center, which I'm very much involved with as well. And Plug and Play is the biggest platform in the world that puts together startups, technology startups with corporations and companies. And they have 17 different verticals or industries, but they have one that's really not a vertical. I would say at a horizontal, which is sustainability, and along with Alliance to End Plastic Waste. And then basically what we have done with Plug and Play is we've seen what kind of challenges we have and see how technology can help us resolve them. And in terms of sustainability, the challenge for us is, how can we track better our bottles and the tracing and traceability of the bottles. So we're working now with, they're scouting 15 different startups that can help us with this worldwide. And we'll take a look at 2 or 3 of them and hopefully pilot with one of them. So, just bringing innovation and the startups scene also into sustainability.
Amazing. Guys, you two are amazing. Congratulations for all what you do. And we are looking forward to your next steps. Bert, I'll keep an eye on you. Alberto, I'll see you later. We have Alberto late as well. Bert, thanks so much and take care. A big hug from Spain to Holland.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's great to see you again, and I hope to be able to come to Spain soon. I hope to.
You are always invited here. Thanks, Bert.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you later, Alberto. Well, we've already seen the design perspective, how to achieve a success when building business model innovation. We've talked briefly about how circular economy can be financed. We also have seen some of the barriers to accelerate the transition. You've seen that there is a lot about changing the consumer mindset as well. We'll talk more about that. Also, we've discussed a bit about the internal innovation mindset. We'll also touch on that later. And we've talked briefly about the social side of circular economy, and we realize that more is coming on that soon. Let me say first that there will be probably a special follow-up of SB on financing circular business models. So please, if anybody's interested, just write to us, to Quiero, or to myself, sandra.pina@somosquiero.com, or just write it right now in the chat. Everybody who is interested on financing circular business models. Well, our next session is going to be about Spain and how Spain must transition to a circular economy, focusing on identifying the key barriers and accelerators from 3 different perspectives. First, the role of the government. Second, the role of businesses. And finally, we'll discuss more about the role of citizens. Okay? This next session is going to be in Spanish. To all of you who don't speak Spanish, we'll be back at 6:40 to English with our final session with an iconic brand, Timberland, and an iconic group, BF Corporation, that has other brands apart from Timberland, very interesting, like North Face, Vans, Kipling. So please come back there in case you don't speak Spanish. Permitidme entonces que os presente ahora la próxima sesión. En primer lugar, me gustaría presentaros a José Luis Gallego, para los que no lo conozcáis todavía. José Luis es divulgador ambiental, es asesor en sostenibilidad. Ha publicado una treintena de libros sobre medio ambiente y desarrollo sostenible, entre ellos un último libro, Circulando hacia una nueva economía. Y con una trayectoria de más de 25 años en la radio, probablemente le hayáis oído en multitud de emisoras. Actualmente colabora en el programa Julia en la Onda, que presenta y dirige Julia Otero en las tardes de Onda Cero. Es columnista de opinión en El País, El Periódico. Actualmente escribe semanalmente en La Vanguardia y en el diario.es. Director y presentador de documentales, series, entre muchas otras cosas. Y bueno, ha recibido numerosos premios y reconocimientos por su larga trayectoria. Hola, José Luis, ¿cómo estás? Un placer tenerte aquí.
Muy bien, Sandra, encantado de estar con vosotros. Muy interesante la sesión. todo lo que está surgiendo hace ver que esto de la economía circular es imparable. Esto está en marcha.
Imparable, me gusta el adjetivo. Y a esta discusión también me permito retomar a Alberto, porque creo que Alberto Gutiérrez, CEO de Aquaservice, porque su visión práctica yo creo que nos va también a aportar y va a ser una conversación interesantísima entre los dos. Y tenemos que estar orgullosos de lo que pasa en nuestro país también, ¿no? Y creo que estos dos señores pues, son un buen ejemplo, ¿no? Bueno, si me permitís, yo quería empezar un poco por el mundo de la administración. Y José Luis, la primera pregunta un poco para ti, ¿cómo se puede desde la administración nacional, regional, local, realmente promover un avance decidido en España hacia la economía circular? ¿Qué es lo que no se está haciendo? ¿Qué es lo que se debería estar haciendo, ¿no? Un poco esos tres niveles, ¿qué pasa con ellos, ¿no? ¿Son una ayuda o una barrera para toda esta labor que tenemos que hacer, ¿no?
Bueno, fíjate, yo creo que el entorno en el que nos estamos moviendo actualmente no solamente tiene que ver con la situación nacional ni con la situación europea, es una situación mundial. Esta misma tarde, hace escasas horas, acaba de llegar un teletipo de Ursula von der Leyen, la presidenta de la Comisión Europea, diciendo que el mundo debe de estar mejor preparado para las futuras pandemias, ¿verdad? Eso entronca con lo que la semana pasada vinieron a decir Antonio Guterres, Bill Gates y Joe Biden. Fíjate que tres personajes más importantes a nivel mundial afirmando que la mayor pandemia a la que se enfrenta la humanidad es la pandemia de la crisis climática y poniendo énfasis en esa situación cuando todavía estamos atravesando esta pandemia del COVID-19. Es decir, que hay que poner el foco a nivel mundial. Dicho esto, y subrayado que el foco tiene que ser a nivel mundial, sí que es cierto que están pasando cosas en nuestro país y cosas que invitan a la esperanza. La Estrategia Española para la Economía Circular es un buen documento. Es un documento que estuvo en exposición pública en el que todos pudimos participar, es decir, que quien no participó es preciso. Ese documento recoge todas las iniciativas y todas las sensibilidades que hay en el conjunto de sectores que tienen que ver con la economía española y con todos los actores, insisto, desde la administración hasta las empresas, consumidores, por supuesto. Y eso es un resumen, una hoja de ruta que nos debe de guiar hacia ese tránsito, ¿verdad? Pero si me permites, Sandra, antes de hablar de los retos y de los objetivos que traza esa propuesta del Ministerio de Transición Ecológica, me gustaría decir que el tren de la economía circular ya ha partido. El tren de la economía circular, estamos hablando en pasado, el tren de la economía circular partió, señores. Y ese era el tren que iba al futuro. Ustedes, si alguno de ustedes lo perdió, no les queda otra cosa que ir corriendo hacia la próxima estación para intentar cogerlo. Pero en este país, Sandra y el resto de ponentes, en este país se están haciendo las cosas relativamente bien en economía circular. Y aquí tenemos, por ejemplo, un ejemplo clarísimo, ¿verdad? Hay mucha gente que está entendiendo cuál es esa hoja de ruta que marca el Ministerio, que marca el Green Deal, que marca la propuesta de la Comisión Europea y que ha decidido presentar el billete al revisor. El tren ha pasado y hay gente que está presentando el billete. Y ese billete no son propósitos. Yo empiezo a estar un poquito cansado del propósito de empresa, ¿verdad? Aquí se trata de acciones concretas y de resultados. Las empresas que van a bordo de este tren deben de presentar sus logros y no solo sus objetivos. Los objetivos están muy bien, pero dejadme que os diga que la situación está perfectamente seria. Está a punto de presentarse el quinto informe del IPCC, del Panel de Expertos Mundiales en Cambio Climático, auspiciado por la ONU, y ese quinto informe del IPCC, que está tardando porque es rigurosamente serio, nos enfrenta a un escenario inquietante. La crisis climática avanza y estamos teniendo mensajes. Estamos teniendo mensajes en todo el mundo. Filomena fue un mensaje, por supuesto, pero el COVID-19 también es un mensaje. Todos los científicos que estudian el origen del COVID-19 coinciden en señalar que el origen está en la intrusión en la naturaleza y en el agotamiento de los recursos naturales, algo contra lo que lucha la economía circular. La economía circular es un beneplácito, es un pasaporte para disociar de una vez por todas crecimiento empresarial de agotamiento de recursos naturales. Esa falsa dinámica, esa externalidad de los impactos ambientales. Las empresas han tenido buena parte de ellas, una falsa economía, una falsa contabilidad, porque externalizaban todos los costes ambientales. Con lo cual, esa contabilidad era falsa. Bien, la naturaleza ahora ha venido a pedir cuentas y a repasar cada uno de los apuntes. Y no nos queda otra que la economía circular, porque los recursos naturales no dan para más. Por eso es importante, y yo quería dejar muy claro, que el tren de la economía circular ha zarpado. Estamos hablando durante toda esta sesión de propósitos y de panoramas. Fíjate una cosa, Sandra, que te señale. El 2030 es dentro de 9 años y el 2050 es dentro de 29 años. Se están lanzando proclamas y se están lanzando mensajes desde la administración y desde la empresa que a veces, sinceramente, me parecen demasiado osados. Insisto, hasta el 2030 nos quedan 9 años. Dígame usted qué está haciendo. Dígame usted cómo está avanzando en términos de sostenibilidad y de economía circular. Y yo le diré si usted lo que me está diciendo es un propósito o es un objetivo real. Y en este país hay empresas que están decididamente convencidas de que el futuro es la economía circular y que están circulando hacia ese modelo, ¿verdad?
Es muy interesante. Es muy interesante lo que dices, José Luis, porque precisamente en la última charla de hoy vamos a hablar de eso, ¿no? Hablabas de esos propósitos para el 2050, esos objetivos, ¿no? Y qué plan, ¿no? Qué science-based targets hay detrás, ¿no? Hay muchas pocas empresas en el mundo que están haciendo una labor seria desde ese lado y creo que hoy tenemos una en la última ponencia, pero me parece muy, muy interesante lo que decías. Luego retomo un poco, entiendo que no lo estamos haciendo tan mal, pero luego te voy a volver a preguntar qué nos falta desde la administración aquí, porque además, como tú dices, hay muchas empresas que están haciendo cosas y además muchas de ellas son pymes y yo creo que las pymes lo tienen mucho más fácil, ¿no? Para empezar con esto. Luego vuelvo. Alberto, te quería preguntar, en tu opinión, dos cosas, ¿no? Que, bueno, básicamente, ¿qué está haciendo la administración lo suficiente para ayudar a nuevos modelos circulares? Y ahí te lo dejo, Alberto.
Bueno, pregunta interesante, gracias, Sandra. Yo la voy a responder un poco diferente, ¿no? Porque yo siempre he querido enfocarme en lo que puede influir y en lo que no puede influir, ¿no? Entonces, eso es lo primero, ¿no? Pues yo creo que como empresas, como empresarios, tenemos que hacer las cosas bien, ¿no? Y eso significa dar buen servicio a nuestros clientes, tratar bien a nuestra gente, a nuestros trabajadores y trabajadoras, ser buenos ciudadanos corporativos, ¿no? O sea, yo creo que esa es nuestra primera responsabilidad, ¿no? Y una vez ahí, pues ya los gobiernos pueden entrar a legislar más o menos, ¿no? Yo creo que cuanto mejor hagamos entre todas las cosas, pues menos legislación y más facilitación, ¿no? Que es lo que a mí me gustaría que hiciesen los gobiernos, ¿no? Facilitar. En este caso y en el caso de la economía circular, lo que sí hay es una gran expectativa, ¿no? Y con los fondos Next Gen, y esto es uno de los pilares, ¿no? Entonces, si esto luego llega a donde tiene que llegar y somos capaces de utilizar bien esos recursos económicos, pues yo creo que es una gran noticia, ¿no? Pero bueno, todo esto aquí es una labor de todos, ¿no? De las empresas, de los ciudadanos y de los gobiernos.
Una pregunta para los dos. Sí, José Luis, quizás, mira, de la audiencia nos dicen, ¿habría que incluir de manera obligatoria el capital natural en los balances de las empresas? Y eso sí que es algo interesante. ¿Cómo lo veis, José Luis?
Bueno, por supuesto. Hoy, fíjate, hoy se estaba hablando de bioeconomía.
Efectivamente.
Es sustancial. Estás hablando de lo que he dicho antes, de contabilizar los impactos ambientales y dejar de externalizarlos. Porque entonces la contabilidad es falsa y los números son falsos. ¿Eso quiere decir que la economía estaba avanzando durante mucho tiempo de manera falsa? Bueno, la economía lineal, sin ninguna duda, puesto que no contabilizaba esos impactos ambientales, los externalizaba. Lo que propone la economía natural es reducir el impacto para ser más eficientes. Si tuviésemos en cuenta el impacto que genera nuestra actividad en el entorno y la valorásemos y la convirtiésemos en apuntes reales que entrasen en nuestra contabilidad y nos restasen en el balance, las cosas estarían cambiando desde hace tiempo. Porque como bien señala Alberto, aquí estamos hablando de desarrollo, de economía. Por lo tanto, no hay que hablar de utopías. Se trata de mantener el bienestar social y el confort de sociedad que hemos alcanzado hoy en día. Pero es que la economía circular precisamente propone eso. Lo único que hace la economía circular es examinar los sistemas, revisar los procesos y con un rotulador en fluorescente subrayar, identificar y subrayar cuáles son los procesos que tienen oportunidad de mejora y a partir de ahí actuar, influir. Como decía Alberto, me ha gustado lo de que hay que determinar lo que puede influir y lo que no puede influir. Lo superfluo de lo necesario, ¿verdad? Ese concepto es fundamental. Porque a la hora de presentar balances, eso se ha venido haciendo con las memorias de RSC, que han quedado totalmente obsoletas. Hoy en día, una empresa que se esté preparando para el siglo XXI tiene que integrar la sostenibilidad y tiene que integrar la economía circular en su ADN. Esto ya no va de hacer propuestas y de presentar, como he dicho antes, objetivos. Esto va de actuaciones en concreto. Y yo publiqué el año pasado este libro, Circulando en una economía circular, que lo único que hace es un catálogo de buenas prácticas. Señores, aquí hay 30 empresas, no solamente de España, sino también de nuestro entorno. Hay 30 empresas y también administraciones que están haciendo las cosas bien. Entonces, ¿aquí se trata de premiar? No, no se trata de premiar. Hablaba Alberto de los fondos Next Generation. No estamos entendiendo nada con los fondos Next Generation. Los fondos Next Generation no es una bolsa de caramelos que se van a dar a los primeros de la clase. No, en absoluto. Los fondos Next Generation son una propuesta de incentivo para cambiar el modelo económico. Y eso lo ha venido subrayando la Comisión desde el principio. Sin sostenibilidad, y lo ha venido subrayando gente tan alejada del concepto ONG como Larry Fink, ¿verdad? La misiva de Larry Fink de hace 2 años de BlackRock diciendo que la sostenibilidad es el nuevo estándar de la compañía para invertir, supuso un terremoto en el IBEX. Bueno, pues bienvenido sea, porque habían auténticos fósiles que se rompieron como estatuas de arcilla al ver esa iniciativa de BlackRock cuando es tu principal partícipe con un 5, con un 6, con un 7% de tu compañía, exigiéndote esa sostenibilidad. Bien, eso es importante subrayarlo. Los fondos Next Generation van a primar la apuesta por la economía circular.
Alberto, me voy un poco a los ejemplos y luego vuelvo a José Luis. Yo te quería preguntar 2 cosas y junto con una pregunta de la audiencia, ¿no? Bueno, si hablamos del ejemplo de Aquaservice, ¿no? En primer lugar, a nivel empresarial, ¿no? Hablaba José Luis de que hay muchísimas empresas, compañías españolas que ya están adoptando, ¿no? Estrategias circulares. Alberto, 2 preguntas. ¿Qué es lo que viene en el futuro para Aquaservice en economía circular? Y luego también preguntarte que nos des un poquito más de detalle, por curiosidad de la audiencia, acerca de cómo manejáis todo el tema de la distribución logística que antes nos comentabas y que obviamente es uno de los ejes, ¿no? Para modelos como el vuestro, ¿no? Por favor, Alberto.
Muy bien, pues encantado de responder ambas preguntas. En primer lugar, para nosotros, al ser una empresa de economía circular nativa, ¿no? Y esto es lo que éramos nativos cuando no sabíamos lo que era la economía circular, ¿eh? Para mí era pues, utilizar el envase de una forma retornable, ¿no? Entonces, cuando ya empiezas con esa base y cuando ya lo tienes muy interiorizado, pues para nosotros los siguientes pasos ya no solo son en la economía circular, o sea, hay que ir más allá, ¿no? Hay que ir más allá en términos de sostenibilidad, ¿no? Y aquí tenemos pues dos muy importantes. El primero es que ya estamos certificados como empresa residuo cero, que es algo que estoy muy orgulloso con la valoración del 100% de todos nuestros residuos, ¿no? Y es un paso que veníamos por el camino y este año ya hemos llegado al 100%. Y la certificación pues la tendremos en breve después de poder demostrarlo durante 6 meses consecutivos, ¿no? Que es lo que estamos haciendo ahora, ¿no? Y el siguiente punto es, oye, más allá de la economía circular, es ser carbón neutral, ¿no? Y hablamos del 2030, pero esto tiene que pasar antes, ¿no? Y nosotros ya este año estaremos preparados para en la parte de manantiales, en nuestros 4 centros de producción, ya hemos reducido las emisiones y lo que nos queda ahora lo vamos a compensar, ¿no? Para ser carbón neutro y en muy breve también hasta el servicio, hasta el punto final de entrega al cliente también, ¿no? Entonces, ese es nuestro roadmap, ¿no? Pero no hablo del 2030, hablo del 2021. Y esto es porque lo tenemos muy interiorizados y porque sabemos lo importante que es para nosotros, para nuestra gente y para nuestros consumidores, ¿vale? Acerca de la distribución, pues lo que es la movilidad sostenible también es muy importante para Aquaservice, ¿no? Entonces, aquí hemos sido pioneros. Bueno, en primer lugar, actualmente tenemos 52 centros de distribución para tener una máxima capilaridad, hacer los menos kilómetros posibles. Tenemos la mayor flota de vehículos híbridos de 7,5 toneladas de toda Europa. De toda Europa. Está aquí en Valencia, ¿no? En España, porque está distribuida por toda España, la mayor flota de vehículos Fuso. Tenemos en marcha el primer camión eléctrico de 7,5 toneladas para reparto capilar, que también Mercedes nos lo entregó y fuimos la primera empresa. En el año 2020 matriculamos 70 y pico vehículos nuevos, el 100% con etiqueta eco. En España solo el 4,3% fue con etiqueta eco. Y luego pues tenemos una gran concentración de clientes y utilizamos también la tecnología pues para intentar que esas rutas sean lo más eficiente posible, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, pues esto es cuanto más clientes tengamos, más eficientes también serán y cuanto más tecnología utilicemos, pues también haremos menos kilómetros. Pero esto lo tenemos también muy, muy interiorizado como una parte clave de nuestro negocio, ¿no? Y lo bonito de todo esto es que cuando eres sostenible y haces las cosas bien, pues normalmente se traslada en un buen servicio, ¿no? Y es lo que realmente queremos, que esa experiencia del cliente sea excelente y al mismo tiempo sostenible.
Es muy importante, si me permites, Sandra, destacar.
Sí, por favor.
Yo conozco el caso de Aquaservice de manera casi se podría decir que accidental. Mi libro anterior, Circulando hacia una nueva economía, fue Plastic Detox. Era un libro que publicó Editorial Planeta, en el que dábamos consejos para reducir la huella de plástico, el consumo de plástico. No vivir sin plástico, nada de utopías, sino consejos prácticos para reducir el consumo de plástico. Yo dediqué un capítulo al consumo de agua envasada, que en España pues bueno, es muy alto porque tenemos toda la franja costera. La gente que vive en Madrid o que vive en regiones con agua de una cierta calidad, organoléptica estamos hablando, se olvida de que en la franja costera hay grifos que son verdaderamente muy complicados de poner un vaso debajo, ¿verdad? Y entonces nos llamó una oyente a Onda Cero, y me dijo, oiga, mire, es que yo consumo agua, pero no genero residuo y consumo agua envasada, ¿verdad? Agua mineral. Y me explicó el caso de Aquaservice. Yo, poco después, tuve la ocasión de visitar a la compañía. Y fíjate, ahora mismo, Alberto, tal y como está situado, tienes un plano picado de cámara en la que no sé si lo están viendo el resto de gente que nos está siguiendo, pero tienes ahí 2 hexágonos, que son los que se ven, que son planeta y equipo. No sé si lo estáis viendo. Planeta y equipo. Bien. Esa es la clave para avanzar en términos de sostenibilidad. Integrar al planeta en el equipo. Que el planeta forme parte del equipo, sea uno más. E intentar hacer coalición con él. Y nunca hacer actitudes que vayan en contra del equipo. El primer talento que tenemos que retener es el de nuestra condición de habitantes de este planeta. Y eso es muy importante que ponerlo en valor. Ese es el cuore, esa es la esencia de la economía circular.
A mí me gustaría, José Luis, perdón, a mí me gustaría, que hablabas del planeta en el equipo, que el planeta tuviera una silla en el board de directores de las empresas. Eso es lo que me gustaría, una silla, pero bien grande.
Totalmente,
eso, ¿sí o no? Bueno,
de acuerdo.
En nuestro caso es uno de los valores de la cultura, ¿no? Tengo aquí los diferentes y planeta y familia y equipo y aparte de otras cosas, ¿no? Pero para nosotros es importante.
Tengo una pregunta. que creo que es bueno sacar estos temas a la mesa, porque hay gente que efectivamente piensa. Entonces creo que os la lanzo, ¿vale? De la audiencia, que está muy activa. Me decían, ha habido greenwashing estos últimos años por parte de muchas empresas y es la economía circular la próxima herramienta para seguir haciéndolo. Y bueno, yo cuando me preguntan mucho del greenwashing, yo digo, es que hacer greenwashing hoy en día ya no es viable, ¿no? No es ni de business sense ni de common sense, ¿no? Pero ahí lo dejo.
No, mira, es que además un tuit te desmonta tu estrategia de greenwashing. Gracias a Dios vivimos en un mundo en el que la mentira tiene las piernas extraordinariamente cortas. Siempre las ha tenido, pero ahora todavía más. De manera que lo más inteligente no es predicar la sostenibilidad, sino ponerla en práctica. Es mucho más interesante ser sostenible que aparentarlo. Es que hoy en día no avanzamos. Por eso es importante que se pongan encima. Cuando yo hablaba antes de poner encima de la mesa las acciones, pues bueno, ese residuo cero y esa neutralidad en carbono, que hablando de trenes, es el próximo tren que nos espera, el de la neutralidad en carbono, porque la Unión Europea quiere ser neutral en 2050. Y la Unión Europea no es un ente fantasmagórico que vuele en el éter. La Unión Europea está formada por todos los ciudadanos y todas las empresas que operan en su corazón, ¿verdad? Y solamente será neutral carbon en 2050 si cada uno de nosotros, cada ciudadano y cada empresa avanza en ese sentido. Por eso el greenwashing, yo creo sinceramente que tiene los días muy cortos. Han habido intentos y siguen habiéndolos. Pero, vamos, es un maquillaje que yo no le recomiendo a nadie. Te deja la cara muy mal.
Totalmente. Hablemos de ciudadanía un poco más. Los ciudadanos juegan un rol vital, como decíais bien, ¿no? Sin embargo, somos un país que todavía vamos algo por detrás en ciertos temas, ¿no? En lo que tiene que ver con el comportamiento y hábitos, ¿no? A favor realmente del medio ambiente. Hablaba antes Alberto de esa propuesta de esa problemática, ¿no? Del ownership mantra, decía, ¿no? Nos hablaba Bert también de las dificultades, ¿no? ¿Cómo podemos involucrar y motivar en nuestro país a los ciudadanos de una manera efectiva para realmente ser más circulares en la vida del día a día, ¿no? Que al final pues ese granito de cada uno cuenta, ¿no? ¿Qué experiencia, Alberto, tienes ahí? ¿Qué es lo que vendéis vosotros a los ciudadanos? ¿Cómo está evolucionando? ¿Y cuáles son las motivaciones que tienen vuestros clientes?
Muy buena pregunta. Yo sí tengo mucha confianza en el ciudadano y el consumidor español, ¿no? Yo creo que sí que esto está mucho más, como digamos en inglés, top of mind, ¿no? De lo que a lo mejor nos podemos creer, ¿no? Desde Aquaservice, pues nosotros posicionábamos desde un inicio nuestro producto, nuestro servicio, como un convenience, ¿no? O sea, la forma más cómoda para beber en casa, ¿no? Por todas las facilidades que daba, que no había que ir a comprarlo, pues el agua es pesada, con el dispensador simple la tienes fría, ¿no? Etcétera, etcétera, ¿no? Entonces, esto era nuestra primera propuesta de valor, ¿no? Pero hoy día nuestra propuesta de valor va mucho más allá, ¿no? Y hoy día nuestra propuesta de valor es que Aquaservice es la forma más cómoda y sostenible de beber agua embotellada en casa o en la oficina. Y aquí hay algo importante, y es que el consumidor tiene muchas cosas que hacer, ¿no? Y lo que las empresas, lo que podemos hacer es facilitar. Y si les facilitamos y se lo ponemos más fácil a la hora de que sean más sostenibles y que sus hábitos sean más sostenibles, si encima esto lo hacemos de una forma que le resulta más cómodo, pues entonces es un win-win para todos, ¿no? Entonces, yo creo que al consumidor lo que hay que hacer es ponérselo fácil, no ponérselo difícil, ¿no? Y es lo que nosotros ahora hacemos con nuestra propuesta de valor. No solo es cómodo, también es la forma más sostenible, y dentro de la sostenibilidad también es sumamente cómoda para el cliente, porque no tiene que hacer reciclar, lo que hace es reutilizar el envase hasta que ya pues acaba su vida útil, ¿no? Y yo creo que esa es la propuesta de valor.
Yo comparto plenamente ese punto de vista. A mí no me parece del todo justo decir que los españoles vamos por detrás. Nos hemos instalado, tenemos esa manía en este país de cuestionarnos y de pasarnos el algodón los unos a los otros constantemente. Mira, la ley de cambio climático que está a punto de salir ahora del Congreso, que se está debatiendo esta misma tarde, es la más ambiciosa de cuantas más se van a aprobar en Europa. Pero no solamente eso. Global Data acaba de hacer una encuesta de mercado con 3.000 consumidores y el 78% de los consumidores españoles de menos de 50 años dice que ya tiene en cuenta la sostenibilidad a la hora de escoger un producto. Bien, ese baremo nos tenemos que ir muy arriba, muy arriba, muy arriba. Cuando digo es más allá o incluso en Escandinavia para encontrar esos niveles de sensibilidad. Eso es así. Y la prueba evidente está en cómo están tirando las empresas que tienen la sostenibilidad en el cuore. ¿Cuántos clientes tiene Aquaservice, Alberto?
425.000 actualmente.
Bien. Esa era mi última pregunta, señoría.
Ahí ha estado muy bien. José Luis, aprovecho simplemente, tengo aquí tu libro que me has enseñado antes y todavía estoy a medias, pero me está gustando mucho. Me está gustando mucho para que veas que hago los deberes cuando hablo con la gente. Simplemente quería volverte a preguntar un poco, viendo a Alberto, ¿no? Y lo que comentabas de que lo estamos haciendo bien en economía circular como país. No somos Holanda, obviamente, que siempre fue ese precursor, pero no lo estamos haciendo tan mal. Simplemente una última pregunta, un titular. ¿Qué pasa con el mundo de las pymes, ¿no? Toda la aproximación circular, obviamente, es mucho más fácil cuando empiezas por lo pequeño. Somos un país de pymes, tenemos una oportunidad fantástica como país que hay que aprovechar. ¿Cómo lo ves tú eso?
Sí, efectivamente, has dado en la clave. Yo hace poco escribí un artículo diciendo que sin las pymes no vamos a avanzar en términos de economía circular. Por eso yo creo que necesitamos una estrategia nacional de ayuda a las pymes. Y me atrevo a decirlo. No nos vale solamente una estrategia nacional de economía circular, sino cómo eso se va a trasladar verdaderamente a las empresas a las que, según qué exigencias, les es imposible asumir, ¿verdad? Las renuncias y los esfuerzos de recursos que han hecho empresas, por ejemplo, como Aquaservice, no se pueden exigir a todo el mundo, ¿verdad? Porque no todo el mundo tiene la capacidad. Si eres una startup y eres un nativo circular, ya estás en el mercado. Pero si eres un fabricante de magdalenas que llevas casi un siglo fabricando magdalenas con un método de producción determinado, necesitas recursos, necesitas apoyos, necesitas supervisión, necesitas asesores y, sobre todo, necesitas impulso de mercado, que te ayuden a comunicar todos esos esfuerzos que estás realizando. Por eso yo decía que en España se están haciendo muchos esfuerzos. Algunos no están viendo la luz, pero se está actuando. Yo estoy seguro de que Alberto está de acuerdo conmigo. No todo está surgiendo, no todo está dando frutos, pero hay mucha gente que está haciendo esfuerzos internos, incluso a costa de su cuenta de resultados.
Alberto, José Luis, un placer. Me quedaría aquí hablando. El público, me han quedado algunas preguntas allí porque da para mucho, así que si os animáis a meteros en el chat es todo vuestro, os lo compartimos generosamente. Y nada, muchísimas gracias a los dos. Un gustazo conversar y que haya más, por favor. Muchas gracias.
Muy bien, muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Chao, Alberto.
Chao.
Bueno, fijaros que aquí, hasta aquí, no solo hemos visto un poco el cómo construir el éxito cuando hablamos de nuevos modelos de negocio. Nos contaban Bert y Alberto cómo hablamos de cómo la economía circular puede y debe ser financiada. Hablamos de cómo superar barreras para acelerar esa transición a través del liderazgo y la colaboración, más allá de las fotos. Hemos reflexionado acerca del mindset, del cambio de mindset que se necesitaba, nos lo comentaba Chris. También hemos tocado un poquito el social side. Y luego también hemos empezado a ver sectores básicos para esta transición, ¿no? En la economía circular. Hemos visto moda, hemos visto movilidad, hemos visto algún ejemplo de alimentación y bebida, hemos visto envases. Seguimos, ¿no? Y bueno, si me permitís, voy a volver al inglés para esta última sesión, que yo creo que no nos va a dejar indiferentes. Y bueno, I'm not saying goodbye, as we still have the icing on the cake to come. To close the day, we'll talk about the next frontiers of circular economy. I think we mentioned already some of them during the session. We are going to have Timberland and BF corporations. BF Corporation has many iconic brands apart from Timberland, as North Face, Vans, Kipling. We are speaking about circular economy being the first pillar of regeneration. And as we were discussing before, many businesses have set ambitious net zero targets as a result of the growing media coverage around the climate emergency. And although the corporate pledges to become carbon neutral by 2050 may sound great ambition, they also reveal, I think, in my opinion, a lack of urgency and understanding of the required transformation. Because the science-based targets are really the only ones that can provide businesses with clear pathways for decarbonization. So BF Corporation has recently announced science-based targets and a bold vision for sustainable materials. And actually their leading brand, Timberland, is aiming to be 100% circular and net positive by 2030. Now I'm pleased here to have two very special people for me. One is Marianela Servi. Marianela, hi, so good to have you. I'll see you in a minute. Marianela is the Senior Manager of Sustainability and Responsibility for BF Corporation in the EMEA region. And in this role, she leads the team that drives BF's sustainability Made for Change strategy. She's a professional with solid experience in sustainability, gained over 15 years in the food and apparel sector. And she has been also trained, that's very special, on design thinking by the Harvard Business School. And she's also a professional coach. And that's a wow combination for me. And then also amazing to have here Elisabetta Baronio. Elisabetta, she's the Sustainability and Responsibility Manager, EMEA for Timberland, and she leads the Timberland sustainability projects. In her role, she is responsible for developing and implementing the strategy, enhancing the community, the social side, and the sustainable product efforts in the region. And previously, she managed all the BF Circular Economy program in Europe, so both with plenty of experience in the theme. So welcome, how are you?
Good, very good. Thanks for inviting us.
So great to have you back, Marianela, and a pleasure to have you, Elisabetta.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure really to have people like you. Marianela, just going for the work. So BF's revised Made for Change strategy is really pushing the sustainability boundary, you know? Can you share with us why BF is taking such a transformative approach? And could you explain briefly some of the focus areas of the strategy?
Actually, and so yes, good afternoon, buenas tardes a todos. And I'd like to today, together with Elisabetta, give you a little bit of share our experience on what BF, and particularly in this case, one of the brands, Timberland, considers and sees as the value of sustainability and circular economy. So at BF, we really view sustainability both as a competitive advantage and an opportunity to help conserve the environment that we're actually outfitting our consumers to explore. So for BF, focusing on sustainability, it is really the only possible to overall growth of the business in a responsible way, but not only because it sounds good, but because it supports our purpose, really, you know, that you can read, I don't know, somewhere over here, and it ultimately also drives our bottom line. So back to that discussion that we were having throughout the afternoon. So this commitment that we're having is underpinned under our sustainability strategy, like you were mentioning before, Sandra, which is called Made for Change. And it is grounded in three fundamental pillars, which are circular business models, scale for good, and movement makers. I will very briefly highlight the main focus of these three pillars. So starting with circular business models. And as we have been discussing actually the whole afternoon here, also for we at BF, we believe the linear system of production is not sustainable for a planet that has a growing population and limited resources, right? So the take, make, waste approach really results in our industry just losing valuable financial and environmental assets. So our circular approach means materials are used again and again, and all products are kept in circulation for as long as possible, or are even turned into new ones, generating as little waste as possible. This is presenting an opportunity for BF really to unlock new revenue streams for our family of brands that you were mentioning before in the introduction, Sandra, while continually minimizing the environmental impact. So our circular economy strategy centers on 3 key areas: e-commerce, rental, and circular design. And in apparel, these business models are already proving to be successful for our brands. For example, in 2018, the North Face brand launched BF's first e-commerce platform, which is called the North Face Renewed, and it's soon going to be launched in Europe as well. That's the good news, which is a collection of refurbished apparel with the same quality and performance consumers expect from the brand. So it's taking the old, refurbishing it, and selling it again. Another example comes from one of our other brands, Nakapiri, they have developed a series. It's called Circular Series. Through this series, they have developed a collection of jackets that are made with just one material, which is Econyl regenerated nylon. And the jackets can be recycled and recreated into new products indefinitely without sacrificing the quality. So, of course, we have been discussing this the whole afternoon. Embedding circularity requires disruption in many ways of the current processes and a drive to think differently. So one of the things that we are also doing in BF, and we have completed at the end of last year, was to train all our designers, product developers, and business executives at a global level. So it was more than 200 employees on circular design principles, so that we can really start walking the talk, to put it in a way. So ultimately, our goal with this pillar, circular business models, is to lead the large-scale commercialization of circular business models through brand-led e-commerce and rental initiatives by 2030. We also have a goal there. That's the first pillar. Very quickly, Scale for Good is looking more at how we are creating shared value for our stakeholders using the size that we have and influence to lead the transformation that we need in our industry, so that we can address the biggest challenges, which are climate change, materials, and worker well-being. So Scale for Good, we're looking at mainly these 3 areas, and we are currently working to decarbonize. You have mentioned that our science-based targets that we have set at the end of 2019, and we're working to decarbonize our value chain in alignment with the science-based targets and use 100% renewable energies in our own and operated facilities. And yeah, I will talk more about that in later, but really our focus is on our top 9 materials, moving from that will generate actually from regenerative sources, responsibly sourced, renewable or recycled sources. And we will talk more about regenerative in a while. And the last pillar, which is called makers, is basically focusing on the work we're doing with our employees. An example is our volunteering program. So also talking about the social part, which we have engaged around more than 2,000 employees in EMEA during the last year, doing good in the communities in which we are serving.
Great, Marianela. And I just wanted to ask you just a little question. Science-based targets, I think that only 40 companies in the world are actually doing it right now. 300 have the compromise, but just 40 around the world are doing it. Just a very brief question. Wasn't it really hard to make it happen? Very briefly, Marianela, this was not the plan, but wasn't it very hard? Just when you look at it, you see, wow, this is complex. I cannot do this. I mean, how can I make it happen? No, I guess that you were like, wow, no?
Yeah, of course, it was a heavy lift. It took time, and it took many heads from different places, and a commitment from the company that is what we want to get. We need to understand how we can do better. We need to understand what is the current situation, and science-based targets is helping to that. So it is a heavy lift. It's not, especially with the size that we have, but we're really proud that we made it and that we're here talking about it.
You should be. Elisabetta, Timberland has set an ambitious goal. I love it. 100% circular and net positive by 2030. Could you explain how this is going to be achieved? A bit of your plan, please.
Absolutely. And maybe I can start as well, linking back to what Marianela was saying about the science-based target, that for us as a brand has been a real important point to actually decide to go towards regenerative. So as you mentioned, our goal is to have by 2030, 100% of our products that have a net positive impact on the planet. So when we say net positive impact, we mean that we are actually able to sequestrate more carbon rather than what is emitted throughout the production of these products. So as a brand, we are a brand that heavily relies on natural materials. So, of course, agriculture is one of the most important aspects for us to actually tackle to ensure that we are getting to this net positive side. And after many years of working in sustainable products, in minimizing our impact, we realized that that was not enough anymore. We had to do more. And that's where really our net positive vision came from. We are living a climate crisis, as it was said before, a biodiversity crisis. We had to, as a brand, do the step forward to ensure that we were driving the industry also towards a new type, I would say, of goals that are not just about minimizing, but are really about creating net positive value. The way in which we are going to reach this bold vision, is about two different strategies. The first one, as you mentioned, is circularity. So 100% of our product will be designed for circularity. That doesn't mean that we are just going to use recycled material. It means also that we are really studying how to build products that are designed to be disassembled at a certain point, to be easily taken apart. We are doing footwear as a business, so monomaterial is not probably the best approach for us. So we need to ensure that those products, once they reach their end of life, can be easily taken apart. But we also need to create a circular infrastructure behind that allows us to take the product back and ensure that they are kept on the market as much as they can, and just when they reach their end of life, they are recycled. And this will help really us to get to the point of what we call net zero. What is going to help us to move towards this net positive vision is our regenerative agricultural target. So 100% of our natural materials by 2030 will come from regenerative sources. And you might wonder what regenerative is about. Is a type of agriculture that really mimics the way in which nature works. So it gives time to the soil to rest and to somehow regenerate itself. And in this way, we can ensure that by using these practices, more carbon is stored into the ground rather than what is emitted. And regenerative agriculture for us is super groundbreaking, because we know that if regenerative agriculture would be adopted widely, it could be one of the biggest carbon drawdown that are available worldwide. And as Timberland, we're super proud because we have been the first brand worldwide to actually build a supply chain for regenerative leather. So right now we already have into the market products that are using leather coming from farmers using regenerative practices. And by doing so, we have also really put a milestone into the industry, and we have inspired many others to go towards the same direction.
That's wonderful. Yeah, leading in the company for you guys is leading the industry, and that's amazing. Marianela, plastic waste has become a major issue. What is BF doing to advance on sustainable packaging?
That's a good question, Sandra. So, given the magnitude of plastic packaging waste today, which, as you have just said, it's very big, the focus on sustainable packaging is a critical component for us as on our global sustainability strategy. So we have just launched the commitment a month ago, I think, not even, to by 2025, we have committed to eliminate all single-use plastic packaging, and all the remaining packaging will be reduced originate from sustainable sources and designed for use or recyclability. On top of this, we have also committed to leadership, crucial industry coalitions, and of course, we're engaging with different policy initiatives so that we can accelerate and foster this transition to building circular packaging infrastructure that will enable ultimately our 2025 pledge. We have also subscribed to additional guidelines and sustainability goals that will be actually looking into minimizing the waste across our enterprise. So looking at all non-essential single-use plastic for which there is a viable product alternative, we will be eliminating it from BF's offices and all the brands, of course, throughout the direct operations and from even looking at all company-sponsored events. So we have created guidelines and alternatives to plastic also at the level of the events that we organize. So it is a big topic. It is a topic that we are actively trying to put our heads on, and that's why we have decided to make this publicly stated goal. It's something that for us is high and a priority.
Marinella, I have a question from the audience, just very quickly. Let's see if you can answer this one. How do you document the effect from your initiatives on the science-based targets? What is the process behind regarding documentation?
Sorry, can you repeat the first part of the question?
It says, how do you document the effect from your initiatives on the science-based targets? No, how do you track it, basically?
Yeah, of course. So we are following the what is set by the Science-Based Target Initiative. We haven't done this by ourselves. We have done it with the different professionals that are actually helping us following the guidance set by the Paris Agreement. And we are tracking it through different tools and systems and then reporting back through the due diligence process, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah. And Elisabetta, Marianella, Timberland is just one brand within the BF portfolio, no? Could you talk a bit about the relationships between brands with respect to sustainability ambitions? Yeah, do they inspire each other to go further or no? Because we always have these discussions, no? With companies like you, with powerful brands, no? How do you manage that? Is it good? It's not good?
I could say that it is definitely inspiring. So we have to think as BF as the parent company. So BF in itself, it isn't a brand that produces products. We are actually the house of brands, Timberland being one of those. And as such, the objective of this parent company of BF is setting the platforms and the environments to enable the brands to succeed in the sustainability and circularity ambitions. So one example is, again, how to set the science-based target, and with that, we can share more information and technical details about it, but with that, we have launched this new vision for sustainable materials. So by 2030, we have committed to these 3 regenerative, renewable or recycled sources. And that means that we are really creating a platform and the supply chains and the scale that is needed for the brands to, like, for example, Timberland, that they have a very ambitious goal on regenerative, to reach that. We were discussing the other day as well how within the brands, there is always this kind of friendly competition in a way, even though we are part of the same families, like having siblings in one family. And but in a way, in a very positive way, of course, it's inspiring each other, but also the benefit that we have of all being part of this group is that we can think about those economies of scale and the supply chain that will enable us to ultimately accelerate, because we have not only Timberland has a specific goal on regenerative, but we also have brands, the North Face, but also Vans, that are starting to incorporate regenerative into their materials as a goal. So there is always this type of looking to each other and trying to be the best in class, which for us is only positive. No, if it's about being best in sustainability. Elisabetta, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that it's a really positive competition that sparks. So we have these, of course, like this internal conversation all the time, and we're kind of getting a little bit jealous about each other on us if someone got to a target before the other. So it's like this positive competition that really helps to move the industry forward. What I can share also from a Timberland perspective is that when we released our net positive vision back last September, we received many actually feedback, super positive feedback from our competitors as well and brands in our industry. I think that like being in sustainability in the fashion industry right now, it's really a sweet spot in which we kind of talk and collaborate between each other, even if it's a competitor or if it's another company, because like the reality of things is that to create a more sustainable industry, we need scale and we need many brands to move towards the same direction. So it's not going to be one brand that is going to solve everything and save the world. It's going to be the entire industry that together moves towards sustainability, regenerative, and circularity. And without this, let's say, this scale, we are not going to get where we want to go. So it's all calm and it's all positive.
I'm going to leave the last question for the audience because you have a lot of questions coming over. They're asking, what are the challenges of being companies that are proactive and ahead of current legislation in this subject? No, you are ahead. What are the challenges, of being companies that are proactive and ahead of legislation?
It's indeed a super good question, and sometimes there are challenges. Like if I think to circularity, new business model, what we are experiencing is that sometimes the current legislative system, as I mentioned, is behind us. So we need to find ways to ensure that we engage as well with the policymakers and whoever is relevant in this area to explain what are the needs and how it's important to look at, for instance, products that are defected in a different way as it was done in the past. Right now, they are considered waste, which is not for us anymore. They are valuable resources. But we still need work to ensure that we can have, let's say, I would say, a comprehension of what are the potential really behind the circular economy and ensure that we have like the right infrastructure to make this big change happen.
Yeah.
Elisabetta, Marianela, I would be here forever talking to you, you know, you know this. I think you are really changing the mindset and you'll inspire others to shift from a sustainability mindset, do less harm, to a regeneration mindset, which is what we really need now. So thanks so much for being today with us. I have to be honest with the audience, and so nobody's angry with me now, but take care, please. A big hug from Spain to Italy, and take care, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, do you want to go further in circular economy? If you want to go further, then maybe you want to have a look to our new methodology of moonshot thinking. Actually, at Quiero, we are actually doing a partnership with the European Institute for Exponential Technologies of Desirable Futures, Future.io, and we are going to do a next executive moonshot course on circular economy. So if anybody wants more about that, please let us know, write to us, whatever you need, we are there, easy to find out. So, well, to sum up and just say thank you to everybody. Just we've learned how circular business models work. We've seen practical examples. We've seen how we can achieve success overcoming the most usual barriers. We've understood the importance of the organizational mindset to transition to circular models. We explored a bit the social side. We've seen a bit about financing. We've gone down to practical terrain, focusing in Spain, understanding how we are in a good position to make this transition. We've dreamed with our moonshot regeneration being circular economy as a key pillar. And we've spoken about key sectors, areas that are key for this transition: fashion, agriculture, food, beverages, mobility, packaging. So I think we have now a backpack that is good for the trip. We know the route, so this is just the start. So from here, just to say thank you, everybody. Bye-bye, dear friends. I hope that we can see each other soon in this format or in another one, but soon we can be a bit more close. Hope you have enjoyed. A great pleasure, and looking forward to seeing you very soon to Build Back Better. Take care.